Hi, I'm Dr. Robin Koslowitz, YouTube's post-traumatic parenting expert. Today we're going to learn about passive-aggressive narcissists and the kind of bullies that many traumatized children face when they go to school, by analyzing the character of perhaps the worst villain that has ever been written, at least according to Stephen King. And no, it isn't Pennywhistle. The worst villain that has ever been written, the scariest, according to Stephen King, is Dolores Umbridge from the Harry Potter series.
No, not with your quill. Going to be using a rather special one of mine.
It's very interesting to think about why Umbridge is the perfect villain, much worse than the Pennywhistles or the Lord Voldemorts or any others. And a lot of it has to do with a certain type of trauma that many of us have experienced in our childhood. Is this something that interests you? Stay tuned to find out. But first, click subscribe below so you never miss another episode. So when we think about Dolores Umbridge and we think about the passive-aggressive narcissist, what we are really looking at is someone who, unlike the prototypical evil person, they disguise their aggression. They pretend to be polite. I think one of the worst things about Dolores Umbridge is her polite little cough when she's trying to quite aggressively interrupt, but she hides under that perfect mask of sweet niceness, and she politely coughs. Thereby, everyone, of course, has to give her attention, but oh, no, she did not interrupt. No one is allowed to call her to task because she coughed. Have you ever met someone like this who's passive-aggressive? Like, they're getting their way. They are definitely bullying you. They're definitely doing these things quite purposely, but they disguise it in a way that makes it seem so nice. I think Rosalind Wiseman does an amazing job of describing this in her book, Queen Bees and Wannabes. It's also the book that the movie Mean Girls was based on. The concept of relational aggression. Pretend to be nice, but under the surface, you get to do whatever you want, and people can't call you on it. It goes even further with the way Umbridge dresses. She looks like Mary Poppins, right? She's wearing all pink suits, very grandmotherly, perfectly coiffed hair. Her office is decorated with all these little kittens, right? Everything is screaming fluffy, friendly, nice, kind. Her quiet voice, her mannerisms, her sweet, very feminine mannerisms, they're all screaming safety. And yet she is hideously unsafe. So if you've ever experienced something like this, now especially if you were a traumatized child, because traumatized children don't have a lot of room in their brain when they're little to deal with nuance, because we're trying to stay alive. We have much bigger concerns on our head. So when you're trying to deal with a world that is confusing, more confusion is harder. So if somebody's mean and they're just flat out aggressive, right? Voldemort is evil. He is flat out bad. There is no way to understand him as good, right? Okay, so that's much easier to deal with in a way. When you're dealing with overt bullying, when someone comes over to you and says, give me your lunch money or I'm beating you up, they're overtly a bully. They're doing something bad and harmful. It's in a way easier to deal with because you know what you're dealing with. It's just straightforward. Passive-aggressive bullying, especially when you're a traumatized child, is so confusing because the person's signals are all go, 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 go. Yeah, come. I'm this fluffy, sweet teacher with pink and bows, and I talk so nicely, and I cough politely. Everything is saying go, 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 but deep down inside, your instincts are like, stop, 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 stop. This is really, 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 really scary. But you can't always point to what exactly is scary about that person. So if you've ever had a teacher like this, it can be really confusing because on the one hand, all those start signals, but then all my gut instincts are saying no, no, no. If you've had an older relative, perhaps an aunt, perhaps an older sibling who does this, who talks so sweetly but undermines you. Then Umbridge, of course, does this on an even more explicit level when she has students write lines and they use their own blood to write the lines. And even more insidiously, she makes them feel like they are worthy of being punished. They deserve the bad things that happen to them. Harry says that to her. He tries to, call her on it. He tries to say something about the fact that he's bleeding. And she says, yes, Mr. Potter, you know that you deserve to be punished. Trying to instill a sense of badness, persistent shame. I punished you, but you deserved it, is so insidious and evil to do to a child. We sometimes do it accidentally as post-traumatic parents, and we feel guilt for it, as we should. Guilt is the emotion that tells us, I have done something wrong and I need to fix that. It's a useful signal inside our psyche to tell us, oh, so when you say to a kid, I shouldn't have yelled at you, but then again, you were being annoying, yikes, you're kind of doing an Umbridge. And I am guilty of this myself. I yelled at you. I should not have yelled at you. It is my job as an adult to manage my big emotions. The fact that the kid was being annoying, the fact that the child was, I don't know, intentionally stalling when we were in a rush to get out the door, that they bear some responsibility for the frustration of the situation, but not for my big emotions, is not for now. If I'm trying to repair the fact that I yelled at my kid, I need to repair the fact that I yelled at my kid. I shouldn't have yelled. My emotions got big and my voice got loud, and I should have managed them better. And I'm going to work on that in the future. That's conversation 1 that we have on Monday. Maybe on Wednesday or Thursday, we have conversation 2 about when we're trying to get out the door and we're going to be late and our dentist's office makes you reschedule the entire family's dental appointments. This may or may not have happened to me. If you come more than 10 minutes late, we have to come up with a plan so that you get in the car when I ask you to get in the car, because we actually cannot be late, and that isn't fair to me, it isn't fair to the family, it isn't fair to you. I get not wanting to go to the dentist. I also do not want to go to the dentist. Second most, I also do not want to take children to the dentist. Totally get it. And when we have to do something unpleasant, it's best to get it over with, do it, and then focus on the good things afterwards. Like maybe the dentist has, a sticker box, and maybe afterwards we're gonna go do something fun on the way home to sort of erase that experience. But right now, I need you to be a little bit better about getting into the car, and how can we make that happen? What do you think we should do next time? Nothing to do with the fact that I yelled on Monday, because this is Wednesday and we're talking about in the future when we have to go to a noxious task that every fiber of our being doesn't want to go to. How do we make it happen anyway? So it's 2 separate conversations. When Umbridge does this, deep down you know you deserve to be punished. Deep down you know you are bad. That is such a universal experience. We have all, unfortunately, come across that teacher, sometimes that parent, sometimes that older sibling, sometimes that aunt or uncle, that person who tells us, I'm punishing you, it is for your own good, and it is for your own good because deep down inside, you are essentially bad and deserve punishment. So not only the punishment, but the shame associated with it. It's not enough, like, you're bleeding as you're writing, I must not tell lies with your own blood, and it's, the cut is like scarring itself into your hand. That's not bad enough. What's worse is that sense of shame that you feel, right? If you notice in the book and in the movies, Harry does not tell anybody what happened. He doesn't tell people why his hand is bleeding, because you have this confusion and the sense of shame, this deep-seated sense of, yeah, I deserved it. I deserve this bad thing that happened to me because I am bad. Not I did bad, right? If I get a speeding ticket And I know that, you know, there's a certain town where the cops really patrol a lot. And I was driving too fast. And honestly, I value following rules. And I don't want to be a danger to small children, small animals, and potted plants, right? I would like to follow the rules of the road. And I was going too fast. Maybe I was in a rush. Maybe the road was empty and I wasn't paying attention and my accelerator just crept up. I am a very small person. And I drive a very small car, and I get very claustrophobic when I'm driving between two trucks. So I sometimes want to speed up to get away from that, but it's not really safer. The illusion of safety, though, of I need to not be between these two trucks that are hemming me in. I'm so tiny and I can't see over them and I don't know what's coming. It's actually not safer to speed up, but it feels like it's safer to speed up. I don't want to drive behind this truck because then I can't see what's happening. It's a PTSD thing. So yeah, I might get a ticket. And if I get a ticket and I learn from that ticket, you know, I really shouldn't be speeding. It's true. I value following rules. I value getting home safely and in one piece. I value being alive for my kids. So I really shouldn't have sped. That's all it is. If I'm sitting there going, I am bad, there's something inherently bad about me, that's a whole different experience. I never want to have that. I never want to do that to a child. If a child breaks a rule, let's say a child is running at the pool area and the head lifeguard says, okay, for 10 minutes, you're going to have to sit on the side. You cannot get into the water. The goal should hopefully be that the child should feel like that's a natural and logical consequence. Yeah, it really is dangerous to run next to the pool. And the lifeguard gave me this warning and I am now sitting for 10 minutes and now I've learned, right? I don't love punishment as a way to learn a lesson, but that's a natural and logical consequence. If the lifeguard starts yelling about the kid and saying, you're the one who always breaks the rules, you're a bad kid, you don't deserve to be in my pool, something shaming and convinces the child that there's something inherently wrong with them, that's evil. It's not okay to do that to a child. It's not okay to do that to another human. I can think of an influential adult in my childhood who my whole life told me I was lazy. In fact, made up a song about me being lazy and laziness. And to this day, I have this voice in the back of my head that says I'm lazy. And sometimes when I don't push myself to the nth degree, there's an inner shaming voice that says, you are lazy. And I remember this happened to me. I once noticed this in a post-traumatic parent I was working with. I actually wrote about the incident in my book. So my therapist suggested that I read this book by Alice Miller, and I hadn't gotten it read. So the next week I came into therapy and she said, oh, did you read that book by Alice Miller? And I said, oh no, I was too lazy to get around to it. And she looked at me and she said, stop, Robin, stop. You are a PhD candidate. You're doing NINR research, which is like the National Institute of Nursing Research. I was working on a giant research project on what ended up being my dissertation. You have 5 children at that point. That's what I had. You have 5 children. You also work part-time and you're a graduate student. You are the least lazy person I have ever met. Tell me, listen to the voice inside of you that tells you you are lazy. And I want you to give that voice a voice. And I thought for a moment, and I realized exactly whose voice it was. It was such a powerful moment in therapy. Because when I realized whose voice that was, I was able to say, oh, I don't want to give this person a vote. I don't actually respect this person or think highly of this person. I have very mindfully set very firm boundaries trying to get away from this person, although at that point I hadn't. But this is not a person whose judgment I trust. This is not someone who has been out for my good historically. Why would I give them a voice in my brain? And yet I still, to this day, having really processed this in therapy very well, and having written a book about post-traumatic parenting, and having done research, and having treated hundreds of patients, and probably spoken to more than 1,000 post-traumatic parents at this point, maybe we're close to like the tens of thousands at this point, I still have that persistent inner sense of being lazy. That's what the Dolores Umbridges of this world do to us. They give us this persistent sense of ourselves as bad and deserving of punishment. And that's why Stephen King says she's the most perfect villain. She's the most perfect villain because she's a villain you're actually going to meet. You're not going to meet Voldemort, right? You're not meeting ultimate evil, hopefully. You're not meeting some clown that transforms into a spider and bites off heads, right? Like, those are evil at a level that you don't usually meet. But every one of us has that teacher or that authority figure somewhere who did a Dolores Umbridge and told you, I am punishing you for your own good because you are intrinsically bad and deserve punishment. That we've all come across. I remember I had a teacher who was sort of an Umbridge type, not nearly as bad, and this is not a traumatic story, but she was very fond of using the word inculcate. We're going to inculcate these values into you. Ever have a teacher say that? You ever go to a school and they're inculcating values into a child? Do you know the root of the word inculcate? It comes from the Latin word for calyx, meaning heel, and it means to stamp or grind in. Honestly, I don't want a teacher who stamps and grinds me beneath her heel. The fact that she used that term tells me something about her intentions. She wants to inculcate, right? That is not a good thing. I don't want to be stamped beneath someone's heel. So, and that's the Dolores Umbridges of the world. And the way I must not tell lies becomes a scar on Harry's hand after a while. Those are the people that scar our psyche. They really do leave scars. Now, here's another important thing to think about the Dolores Umbridges of the world. They make us doubt our perception of our own reality. What is Harry writing on his hand over and over again? I must not tell lies. If you think about it, Dolores Umbridge tells lies. She pretends she's pure blood, but she actually is a Muggle-born. She's a half-blood. Her mother is a Muggle. Her father is a wizard. She pretends she's from a lofty, fancy family. Her father's a janitor, who she gets fired. So you can see how much family loyalty she has. She is lying, and she knows she's lying. She sent Dementors after Harry Potter. She knows she did this. But that is what I mean when I say a narcissistic person is the arbiter of reality. What is a lie to Dolores Umbridge? Whatever Dolores Umbridge decides is not the truth. Dolores Umbridge decided that this janitor guy is not her dad, so I must not tell lies. Dolores Umbridge decided that anybody who's Muggle-born is stealing magic from natural-born witches or wizards. So therefore, if you have magic and you are Muggle-born, you are a thief, and you're lying if you say anything else, because the truth is what Dolores Umbridge defines as the truth. That's what I mean when I say a narcissistic person is an arbiter of reality. Truth and lie has no meaning here. Truth is what I say it is. And you can have the overt narcissist that is, bombastic, kind of like the wizard character in The Wizard of Oz, right? Who's just like all over the place. And then you can have the passive-aggressive narcissist, like Umbridge, who sits there and sweetly says, I must not tell lies. I have to teach children not to tell lies. After all, as their teacher, I need to train them. I need to inculcate honesty into them. And yet, what is a lie? Whatever I say it is. What is truth? Whatever I say it is. These are, in some ways, the most insidious of the narcissist, because that passive aggressiveness makes it very hard to see it. And when you're a child, it's so hard. It's very easy to understand Voldemort as evil. It's very easy to understand the evil of someone who's beating you up. It's very easy to understand that. But the person who undermines you, the person who makes you doubt your own perception of your own reality, the person who makes you gaslight yourself, that's an evil that is so much harder to deal with and so much harder to recover from in adulthood, because it's so much more confusing. And when you're a post-traumatic child and you're coping with trauma and you're a kid, like when I was coping with having a very ill father, when I was coping with being bullied because my family was a little different, I very often would drag my feet or be in my own world or be dissociated. And this person called that lazy and made me feel like a lazy person. I wasn't lazy. I was carrying a much heavier, higher burden than any other child my age would carry. There was a part of my brain that was trying to keep my father alive. There was a part of my brain that was trying to figure out why the mean girls were mean to me. And the mean girls were mean to me because I was different. I was different because I had a sick dad, right? So that kind of thing, I didn't understand how to carry that. You can't call someone lazy when they're carrying a gigantic backpack full of rocks and they're not running as fast as the other kids because the other kids don't have that gigantic backpack on their backs. That's what the Umbridges of the world do to us. So yeah, I agree with Stephen King. Dolores Umbridge is the perfect villain, the worst kind of villain there is, because she's the kind of villain that makes us doubt our perception of our own reality. And that can be really, really, really difficult, insidious, hard to recover from. So if you're a post-traumatic parent and this resonated with you, if this helped you understand perhaps a passive-aggressive narcissistic relative, if this helped you understand that teacher that left a really bad mark on you, or why you have a persistent negative voice, shaming voice inside of you, welcome. Hi, welcome to the post-traumatic parenting community. We get it. We've been there. We're post-traumatic parents too. If you liked this episode, if you don't want to miss another one, please click subscribe below and please send this episode to a friend, because there are so many post-traumatic parents out there who need to learn about post-traumatic parenting. If you want to hang out where fellow post-traumatic parents hang out, check out @Dr. Koslowitz Psychology on Instagram. And be sure to sign up on my website, drrobinkoslowitz.com, for our newsletter. You can find the Post-Traumatic Parenting Podcast available wherever you get your podcasts. That's where I interview experts on trauma and parenting and the intersection of those two. And of course, the Post-Traumatic Parenting book is forthcoming from Broadleaf in 2025, so stay tuned for that. Till next time.